Congressman Alan Grayson is on the line with us, representing the 9th District of Florida. Congressman with Guts.com, famously, although don't attack Syria.com, is a new petition site associated with Congressman Grayson, I believe. Congressman Grayson, welcome back to the program.
Thanks. That petition site is giving people a chance to do something that many people want to do, which is to weigh in on this and express their dissatisfaction with the idea that we're going to get sucked into yet another war in the Middle East.
Yeah. I don't recall any place in our treaties or in the United Nations treaties where it says that the United States has the job to enforce international law. Did I miss something?
It's even worse than that, Tom, and I appreciate you almost exclusively helping to try to bring some attention to that important issue. The UN Charter is very clear on this point. One nation should not be attacking another nation unilaterally, whatever the rationale might be. And the administration hasn't even attempted to argue that they're trying to vindicate international law, because they're not. Instead, what they're doing is arguing that they're trying to vindicate an international norm. If you pin them down on that, if you inquire further, what you do is you find out that they're relying on the Convention Against Chemical Weapons, and unfortunately, Syria never signed that convention.
Right.
In international law, you can only enforce treaties and conventions that other countries have signed. So they're left with this very weak argument that there's this norm that they have to enforce. And of course, international law does not involve the enforcement of norms, but rather the enforcement of laws.
I've been to, recently, I've been to South Sudan, spent a fair amount of time with Salva Kiir, the new president there. And I've been up in the north and on the border with Darfur. I have watched from the air as a village was burned. A good friend of mine went along and brought back a child whose mother had been taken into slavery. He had been hung upside down and had red hot pepper put in his eyes. He's blind. He's at Perkins School right now. I've seen people who, I just go on and on. I mean, what is going on in South Sudan, northern South Sudan and Darfur is horrific. I've been in Uganda. I was there during the war with Idi Amin. They've got some problems now. We have terrible problems down in Mr. Mugabe's Mugabe land in Zimbabwe. North Korea is no paragon of. I mean, once we decide that we're the ones who are going to protect innocent people from bad governments, where does it stop?
It doesn't. And if there's one thing that's clear at this point, whatever the humanitarian impulses that certain people may have, it's that Americans don't want to be the world's policeman and can't afford to be the world's policeman. The British government estimated, the American government hasn't bothered to tell us how much this would cost, but the British government estimated this would cost America at least $1 billion, this attack that's being contemplated. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. As you point out, if we're going to attack Syria, then I guess we'll have to attack Burma. If we're going to attack Burma, I guess we'll have to attack Somalia. If we're going to attack Somalia, I guess we're going to have to attack Nigeria. If we're going to attack Nigeria, we're just going to have to attack Mexico.
Well, and I'd put the Democratic Republic of Congo in there too. I mean, what's going on there? 5 million people. I mean, this is. It just goes on and on and on. And this $1 billion at a time when we're cutting food stamps? Really?
Right. And 20 million Americans are looking for full-time work. And as you point out, 45 million Americans rely upon the government to feed them. How could anybody possibly justify spending $1 billion on lobbing a few missiles into Syria when we know it's not going to lead to an end to the dictatorship? It's not even going to take away their ability to gas their own population in the future.
Right.
It would be at most a slap on the wrist, and an ineffective one at that.
We have a long history. Ronald Reagan did it with Grenada, arguably a few other places. Clinton in Bosnia, although there was an enormous amount of world pressure on that. But we have a long history of presidents wanting to have small, successful wars. George Bush Jr. pointed out that if his father's war had lasted not 3 days, but 30 days or maybe three or 4 months, that he probably would have gotten reelected. And there's this impulse to do this. I'm I'm wondering if you have any interest in speculating about what the motives behind this might be, or if you're simply asserting that there's no reason for us to be there.
Well, the latter. I'm not really interested in doing some kind of proctological examination of the president's motives or Secretary Kerry's motives or anything like that. I don't get to vote on their motives. I do get to vote on their plans and their proposals, and I'm going to be voting against it. It's not our responsibility. It won't do any good. It's expensive, and it's dangerous. We attack them, they attack us. Then we're in another war.
Yeah, and I'll make this my final comment, and you can add whatever you'd like. My biggest concern here is, given the fact that Russia and Iran have very substantial interests in the region and treaty interests in the region, as do we and with other countries in the region, that this could have the potential, and I realize it's remote, but it could have the potential to be an Archduke Ferdinand moment. I'm curious your thoughts on that.
Well, much more so than a Neville Chamberlain moment, the way that Secretary Kerry has run around and suggested a Munich moment. I'll give him credit for alliteration, but nothing else.
Yeah.
We have blundered into war before. The most benign explanation of the war in Iraq is that we blundered into it, and that took $4 trillion and 4,000 American lives and 250,000 Iraqi lives for us to extricate ourselves from that. And the same thing could happen all over again. I've pointed out to people on several occasions now that the Beirut embassy is a 2-minute MiG flight from the Syrian border. I don't understand why people think we can hit them, but they can't hit us. And of course, that's how wars get started. Iran is already involved. Hezbollah is already involved. The Israelis are to some degree already involved. The Turks are unfortunately involved in being dragged into this, kicking and screaming.
And the Jordanians
are involved from the fact that they're hosting over 1 million refugees right now, and on and on and on like that. And what we're doing is we're tossing a missile into a tinderbox.
Yeah.
I listen carefully to the arguments that are made in favor of action and what the consequences might be. It seems to me just as likely or more likely that we will see negative consequences instead of positive ones. And I think it's extraordinarily unfortunate that we've had any innocent people dying anywhere, and for any cause. A corpse is a corpse, whether it's killed by gas or bullets or bombs. But that simply does not make us responsible for it. We can't afford to be the world's policeman or the world's judge and jury and executioner any longer. And people understand this. You know, what's interesting is not only the number of people who are against this, as the polls reflect, but the intensity of their feeling. The fact that in almost no time we'd have 25,000 people come to the don'tattacksyria.com website and put their name down. And these are people who are going to be calling their congressmen. They're people who are going to be emailing their congressmen. They're people who realize that we're at a moment now. We're at a turning point. And we have to get past this idea that every time we see something we don't like, we bomb it.
Right. Yeah. It's the old Abe Maslow, you know, when the only tool you have is a hammer, every problem looks like a nail. We've got a very, very good hammer in our military. And we should be having a hammer in building schools and other things. But
well, you know, we call it the Department of Defense.
Yeah.
And it's supposed to defend Americans and our allies. No Americans have been attacked here. None of our allies have been attacked here. And whatever we do that's being contemplated now is not going to really, in the end, alleviate anyone's suffering or avoid anyone's suffering. If anything, it could extend and prolong and magnify the agony. We have a situation right now where there's been a civil war going on for several years. It's beyond our ability to end it. It's going to continue regardless. It's becoming a proxy battle between Sunni crazies and Shiite crazies. I don't feel any particular need to intervene in a battle like that. I think most people would say a plague on both their houses.
Yeah, it's like a bunch of guys sitting in a basement or standing in a basement up to their ankles in gasoline, yelling at each other, and we walk in with a hand grenade.
Yeah.
Congressman Alan Grayson, don'tattacksyria.com, and of course grayson.house.gov and congressmanwithguts.com. Congressman, thank you so much for the great work you're doing.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you for your great work, too.
Thanks for being with us. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Visit thomhartmann.com for audio and video archives.
There are a few people who tell it like it is, the way that Congressman Alan Grayson does. We'll be right back.